Some Nigerians are calling on President Bola Tinubu to step down because they believe he did not have the necessary qualifications specified by law of Nigeria to be the president. The issue of President Bola Tinubu's qualification came up during the 2023 presidential election and became one of the issues challenged by opposition parties in court. However, the courts ultimately allowed the election result to stand. Now that the 2027 general election is approaching, some Nigerians who remain dissatisfied with questions surrounding President Bola Tinubu's educational qualifications are calling on the Independent National Electoral Commission of Nigeria to properly examine the documents he has submitted and provide Nigerians with clear answers concerning his eligibility. According to the information contained in INEC's published 2023 final list of candidates, President Bola Tinubu was listed with a BSc in Business and Administration as his qualification. However, some Nigerians have continued to raise questions about the educational history contained in his nomination documents, particularly information relating to his primary and secondary education. The question being raised by these Nigerians is simple. If a person presents a university degree as his qualification, there should also be a clear and verifiable educational history showing how he progressed to that level. Now hear this. Based on our findings, there were Nigerians in the past who, after completing their primary education, could not immediately proceed to secondary school because their parents could not afford it. Some of these individuals continued their education through correspondence programs, evening lessons or other forms of private study before sitting for examinations such as the General Certificate of Education, and those who obtained the required qualifications could subsequently gain admission into a university. Therefore, if President Bola Tinubu's educational history followed such a route, Nigerians deserve a clear explanation of where and when he completed his primary education, the school he attended and the educational pathway that eventually led to his university admission. Some Nigerians are therefore calling on the relevant authorities to make the necessary records available and properly address the questions surrounding his educational history before the 2027 presidential election. Somehow, Nigerians have the right to ask questions about the qualifications of anyone seeking to lead the country. What matters is that such questions should be answered through verifiable documents and established facts rather than political propaganda. If President Bola Tinubu's educational records are genuine and satisfy all constitutional and legal requirements, then the relevant authorities should provide the necessary clarification and put the matter to rest. But if there are discrepancies that require further explanation, Nigerians believe those issues should be properly addressed before another presidential election. The time has come for Nigerians to examine the records and qualifications of those seeking to govern the country. If Nigeria truly wants to move forward, voters should be able to make their decisions based on credible information concerning the people seeking their votes. President Bola Tinubu said that before he was born, there was hunger, which is true. So as the President of Nigeria, what is your government doing to change such ugly situation? Nigerians are heading towards the 2027 general election, and the election is undoubtedly going to be very important to the people of Nigeria. The 2027 election will provide Nigerians with another opportunity to decide the direction they want the country to take. Nigerians will have to decide whether to continue with President Bola Tinubu and the APC or choose a different political direction. President Bola Tinubu recently spoke about the existence of hunger before he was born. Somehow, that statement raises an important question. If hunger has existed in Nigeria for generations, what concrete steps is the current government taking to change this situation and ensure that Nigerians can enjoy a better standard of living? Viewers Corner News Team believes that the APC-led government under President Bola Tinubu has failed to offer Nigerians the kind of leadership needed to address the country's major challenges. Instead, many Nigerians continue to struggle with hunger, insecurity and economic hardship. Nigeria is a country blessed with abundant natural and human resources. The country has enormous potential to provide its citizens with a decent standard of living. However, the major challenge has always been the ability to effectively manage these resources for the benefit of the people. As Nigerians prepare for the 2027 election, voters will have the opportunity to examine the records, policies and plans of the various presidential candidates before making their decisions. Having considered the profiles and political records of the presidential candidates, the Viewers' Corner news team believes that Mr. Peter Obi is the candidate who can be trusted to lead Nigeria out of poverty and place the country on a better developmental path. For this reason, we appeal to Nigerian voters to consider electing Mr. Peter Obi as president in 2027 and give him the opportunity to lead the country. We believe that Mr. Peter Obi would provide responsible leadership and use Nigeria's resources to improve the lives of ordinary Nigerians. The Viewers' Corner news team also believes that his administration would place greater emphasis on accountability, economic development, job creation and the effective management of public resources. Security is another major concern facing Nigeria. Nigerians deserve to live in a country where they can travel, work, conduct their businesses and raise their families without living in constant fear. The Viewers' Corner news team believes that Mr. Peter Obi would work seriously to address the security challenges confronting the country and create an environment where Nigerians can pursue their livelihoods and contribute to national development. Ultimately, the decision belongs to Nigerian voters. The 2027 election should therefore be an opportunity for Nigerians to carefully examine the candidates, their records, their policies and their vision for the country before deciding who deserves their votes. The future of Nigeria depends on the choices Nigerians make at the ballot box. Governor Francis Nwifuru of Ebonyi State in Nigeria is wasting his state resources on projects that are not needed in the state, which is terrible. Governor Francis Nwifuru of Ebonyi State, just like former Governor David Umahi, who brought him to office, has started on the wrong note. There have been allegations that Umahi brought Nwifuru to power partly to assist him in covering up alleged past corruption activities, although such claims would require credible evidence to establish. Both former Governor David Umahi and Governor Francis Nwifuru have been criticized over their approach to development in the state. Critics argue that the two administrations have focused on projects that are not necessarily the most urgent needs of the people, while many residents of Ebonyi State continue to struggle with poverty and other economic challenges. Right now in Ebonyi State, the construction of a flyover bridge, which critics argue is not needed in the state, is already underway. This is in addition to the flyovers constructed during the administration of former Governor David Umahi. We believe that Governor Francis Nwifuru's decision to construct another flyover bridge in a state where such a project may not be an urgent necessity raises serious questions about the management of public resources. Critics may see the project as another example of government resources being committed to expensive infrastructure without sufficient consideration of other pressing needs of the people. According to our source, the airport built in Ebonyi State is now being used for activities that are not related to its original purpose, while the source also alleged that no plane has landed at the airport. These claims, however, require independent verification. If former Governor David Umahi had listened to those who advised against constructing the airport and instead used the funds for projects that would directly benefit the people of Ebonyi State, the situation might have been different today. However, critics of the project have continued to question its economic justification and the value it has delivered to the people of the state. There are also allegations that the former governor was more interested in projects because of the financial benefits they could generate for him. Today, a similar argument is being made about the administration of Governor Francis Nwifuru, particularly over the construction of a flyover bridge that critics believe is not necessary for the state at this time. Honestly, This represents what some people in Ebonyi State consider economic waste. Some individuals with foresight in the state have strongly condemned what they see as misplaced priorities and have called for greater attention to projects that can directly improve the living conditions of ordinary citizens. Government resources are limited, and every major project should therefore be carefully evaluated based on its necessity, economic value and potential impact on the people. The people of Ebonyi State deserve projects that address their most pressing needs and provide measurable value for the public funds being spent. APC, President Bola Tinubu's government will always continue to surprise Nigerians through their incompetence. Many Nigerians have continued to express concern over what they describe as the federal government's spending priorities, particularly at a time when the country is facing significant economic challenges. Critics of President Bola Tinubu's administration have pointed to reports of budgetary allocations for the construction and renovation of churches, mosques and traditional rulers' palaces, arguing that such projects should not take priority over more pressing economic needs. They believe that the timing of these expenditures has become a major source of public concern. Many Nigerians acknowledge that there is nothing inherently wrong with supporting religious or traditional institutions. However, critics argue that, given the current economic situation, greater emphasis should be placed on investments that create employment opportunities, improve electricity supply, strengthen education and healthcare, enhance security and support businesses capable of stimulating economic growth. Critics further contend that directing public funds towards productive sectors of the economy would generate broader economic benefits, including increased employment, higher productivity and greater tax revenue. They argue that these investments would have a more immediate impact on improving the living standards of ordinary Nigerians. Supporters of the government, however, maintain that national development involves investing in various sectors and institutions, including cultural and religious infrastructure, and that such projects may also contribute to community development and national unity. As the 2027 general election approaches, many Nigerians continue to debate the country's economic direction and are urging voters to carefully evaluate the priorities, policies and performance of those seeking public office before casting their votes. The growing number of youths from the northern part of Nigeria who are supporting Mr. Peter Obi has put Mr. Atiku Abubakar and his camp in an uncomfortable situation. Political discussions ahead of Nigeria's 2027 general election continue to intensify, with many Nigerians expressing differing opinions about the level of support enjoyed by the leading presidential hopefuls across the country. Somehow, some supporters of Mr. Peter Obi believe that he is attracting increasing support from young voters in northern Nigeria, a development they argue could reshape the political landscape ahead of the election. They contend that many young people are placing greater emphasis on issues such as good governance, accountability and economic development rather than voting strictly along regional or ethnic lines. Some political observers have argued that Mr. Atiku Abubakar, as a prominent politician from northern Nigeria, is expected to command significant support in the region. However, supporters of Mr. Peter Obi disagree with that assessment, arguing that the voting pattern in 2027 may differ from previous elections because many young voters are seeking a different style of leadership. Supporters of Mr. Peter Obi have also suggested that, if he were to choose a strong running mate from northern Nigeria, it could further strengthen his electoral prospects. However, the selection of any running mate remains a political decision and any assumptions about its electoral impact remain speculative. Many of Mr. Peter Obi's supporters also cite what they consider to be his record of prudent management and the absence of any proven corruption conviction against him as reasons they believe he remains a strong presidential contender. Supporters of other candidates, however, hold different views and continue to promote their preferred candidates. As Nigeria moves closer to the 2027 general election, Political parties and candidates are expected to continue campaigning across all regions of the country, while Nigerian voters ultimately decide the outcome through the ballot box.